category unless there might be something else, unless there is something that could come in the future, which again is somewhat extraordinary given that this investigation has been going on for half a decade. One other thing I would note is the fact that this does signal to us that the investigation is ongoing is really interesting, given the difference you saw in court between Hunter Biden's team saying, this is the end of the investigation, right? And the Department of Justice saying, no, it's not. And that was really the moment when those plea negotiations fell apart. And this is another signal that the Department of Justice was not bluffing, that in fact, they are still looking into other activities.
So, Jessica, it seems really unusual to me that Weiss was appointed the special counsel. I was looking up special counsels, and it said they are appointed when it is best to have someone outside of the government come in because of a conflict of interest. And three things stood out to me. One, Weiss was previously overseeing this investigation. Two, Garland said that he asked for the job. And three, he's continuing to serve as U.S. Attorney for Delaware. So by definition, is not outside of the government. Is this completely outside of the box? And if so, what does that mean in terms of Merrick Garland's decision to appoint David Weiss as the special counsel in this case?
Great question. Well, I'll say everything about this is out of the box. And that's something we say with respect to former President Trump and the fact that there's a special counsel, obviously, as we all know, looking into his activities. There is a special counsel looking into the current president with respect to the classified documents that he found at his residences. And now there is a third appointment of a special counsel now looking into the current president's son. So to a certain extent, all of this is somewhat out of the box. I mean, politically, I think what Merrick Garland is trying to do is emphasize something that he's been saying from the beginning, which is this is a U.S. attorney who was nominated by former President Trump. This is not somebody who President Biden picked to oversee his son's case. And it really puts more meat on the bones of the claim that when Merrick Garland says, I am not the one calling the shots in this investigation. I was appointed by President Biden. I am not the one directly overseeing the investigation into his son. It creates much more structure and much more support to that claim. The special counsel in this case, I mean, it really means, of course, yes, as you noted, he is still a government appointee. He is still overseeing Delaware, but it moves him with respect to this investigation kind of outside of the typical day-to-day reporting up to Merrick Garland. It moves him kind of somewhat outside of the typical organizational chart. Now, will this calm critics who say that the Attorney General is going after Hunter Biden in a way that he would not go after other people? No. Will this calm critics on the other side? Probably not, but that's a political reality.
All right, let's bring in CBS News senior investigative correspondent Catherine Herridge. Catherine, you were in the room for the announcement. Give us some context. What led to this point? Why is this happening now?
Well, what we know from the Justice Department and the Attorney General is that it's happening now because it came at the request of the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, David Weiss, who's been leading the Hunter Biden investigation since 2018, that he needs these additional authorities as the investigation continues. But you're right to point out that this decision did not happen in a vacuum. You need to see several data points here to understand, I think, what the pressure was to elevate this case. First and foremost, we have the failure of that plea agreement just about 2 or 3 weeks ago in Delaware, where both sides were ready to wrap this thing up with a bow, only to learn that the judge felt she couldn't accept or reject the plea agreement because of what she described as non-standard terms in that agreement. You recall it was for 2 misdemeanor tax charges and 1 felony gun offense. Also, what's happened in recent weeks has been this very public testimony of these IRS whistleblowers on Capitol Hill about what they say they witnessed during the course of David Weiss's investigation. To sum it up, they allege that there was preferential treatment for the president's son and that the evidence supported much more serious felony tax charges, including tax evasion. And finally, it's a question of the precedent. The calls for a special counsel have been lingering for years in this particular case. But now David Weiss has felt that the ongoing investigation needs that kind of elevation and protection. And I know you both know that it was this element of an ongoing investigation that led to the unraveling of that plea agreement in Delaware. Hunter Biden's attorneys felt that this deal was the end of the story, no more litigation for Hunter Biden and his business deals. But the federal prosecutor said that's not the case, not so fast. We have a number of ongoing issues that we are considering.
Clearly not the end of the story. All right. Thanks, Catherine. CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian also here with us now. Nicole, we have a special counsel in 2 Trump investigations. Now there's one on the Biden case. How could all of this play out on the campaign trail?
Well, it's also to the point that Catherine referenced, more specifically how it plays out on Capitol Hill, which is really where I think we'll see more of the immediate reaction and response here, because many congressional Republicans have actually been pushing for David Weiss to have this special counsel status for some time now. So whether or not this quiets some of the concerns that they have, I think remains to be seen. But, you know, congressional Republicans have even suggested a potential impeachment inquiry, not only against the Attorney General, but also even President Biden. You know, this has been a talking point that some congressional Republicans have made in part because of their dissatisfaction with how they believe this investigation has been handled. So again, whether or not this appointment now of David Weiss as a special counsel allays some of their concerns until we see more of this investigative process play out remains to be seen. But just to convey how seriously some Republicans have been pushing this. I mean, just today you had Florida Congressman Greg Steube, who filed articles of impeachment against President Biden based on some of these allegations against Hunter Biden. Now, it's worth noting that you also have representatives like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who did something similar earlier this spring over the Biden administration's border policies. And, you know, again, unclear if these types of resolutions will move forward. But certainly Republicans have been very adamant in their view about trying to hold the former president, or the current president and his administration hold their feet to the fire, you know, again, over the way this Hunter Biden investigation has been handled. And as been previously noted, you know, there are a range of investigations into this right now, more specifically with the House Oversight Committee, which has really kind of been the oversight committee and the umbrella committee that has been handling a lot of these allegations, which just put out a report this week with new bank records from what they say are transactions involving the Biden family. The chairman just this week saying that ultimately he would like to subpoena members of the Biden family. So again, this is only likely to have more political implications, again, more specifically on Capitol Hill, but certainly possibly on the campaign trail as well.
All right, we'll wait to see what the reaction is from House Republicans to this news. Nicole Killian, Jessica Levinson, and Catherine Herridge, thank you all.
The headline there, Merrick Garland has appointed David Weiss, the district U.S. attorney for the District of Delaware, as a special counsel into all the investigations into the president's son, Hunter Biden. We're going to continue to monitor this story and bring you all the updates as they happen. For now, a quick break. You're streaming CBS News.
An original documentary from CBS reports. Controversial Congressman George Santos.
Why won't you answer our questions?
How did he manage to get elected?
Thank you very much, and God bless you, and God bless the USA.
George Santos' campaign was a campaign of deceit, lies, fabrication.
And who is he, really?
I knew him as Anthony DeVolder from Queens.
Really, who he is, he's a fraud.
I compare him to the Tinder swindler.
From people who know him The truth, the facts, the lies.
He would say that he was worth $100 million.
It's an incredibly cynical episode in American politics, beyond satire.
Had you ever seen anything like this?
No, and I hope I never see it again.
Campaign of Deceit, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
She dazzled on the court and off the court as a businesswoman.
Thank you for joining us on Person to Person. Tennis superstar and entrepreneur, Serena Williams.
An original CBS Reports documentary.
I asked my students, what are we going to do about racism in the United States?
The backlash over teaching about racism in American schools.
I don't think it has any place in the classroom.
We can either pretend and say, no, we're not racist and we're all great people, or we can actually start to do the really, really hard work of addressing it.
How did you lose your job?
I made the statement that white privilege is a fact.
Is it helping diversity and inclusion?
When you bring in different people's stories and experience, it enriches education.
If you don't talk about something, it doesn't go away.
Or driving us further apart?
What schools are doing to our children in the name of anti-racism is in fact teaching them racism.
The intention is to put us in this war against each other.
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now. An original CBS Reports documentary.
I was entitled to equal pay for equal work under the law.
Does the Supreme Court's power need to be checked?
9 Supreme Court justices, 5 of them said no, she's not entitled. That's not right.
Calls to fix the court tend to go along with the politics of the moment.
Republican-appointed justices have all tended to go in one direction, with the Democratic-appointed justices tending to go in another.
Even though it's only 9 justices, it takes 5 of them to make the law of the land.
Does it have political impact? True. Political intent? Probably not true.
If the American people don't trust the judgment of their court, that's a real problem for our democracy.
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now.
On our places, bright shiny faces.
When you wake up in the morning, we want to be your go-to team.
I don't go to work in the morning. I go for coffee with my 2 good friends, and we talk about the world.
Mandatory evacuations are in effect in parts of Ukraine's Kharkiv region as Russian forces ramp up their air assault.
Other regions are also seeing increased attacks. In Zaporizhia, Ukrainian officials say a Russian missile hit a hotel, killing at least 1 person and injuring 16 others.
CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio joins us with more from Lviv, Ukraine. So, Ramy, in a